Hey guys, welcome to Wealth on the Rocks. Today we got Tyler Erickson. He is a website developer, a marketing genius. If you don't know what your message is, he can help you figure out what that is. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, David. This is great.
Good stuff. And we're drinking something very special today. This is really fun. I'm all out of breath trying to figure this out, this whole podcast thing. Oh my God. We got some rare breed. For those of you that like bourbon, you probably know what this is, but this is one of my favorite things to drink. I am a sucker for Dusties. I'm a sucker for older vintage bourbons, and especially Wild Turkey stuff is always great. So I got some really special stuff. Is from the early 2000s, believe it or not. Rare breed, barrel proof from the early 2000s. So, and it's 112, almost 113.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think vintage is always better. Guitars, paintings, and bourbon.
Yep, I love it.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And this might be a bottle kill. Here, we'll do.
Oh yeah.
We'll kill it. It's like the glasses are barely holding. Right. There's like a little smidgen. Well, we'll kill it later. Well, good stuff. Well, happy to have you, man. I know we've met at different events here downtown, but Definitely. You have such a cool personality. You're such a smart individual when it comes to marketing and building websites and things like that. And so I definitely want everybody to hear your story and hear a little bit about what you're doing and everything. But cheers.
Cheers, man.
Absolutely. Welcome. This is nice.
Gotta love that bite.
It's very
Is it
nice.
113?
113.
That's good.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I have some. It's kind of a cool thing because like a lot of people, I feel like in the bourbon community, they do a lot of hunting for some of these things, and I feel like maybe not so much of the older kind of funky flavors. Yeah. Maybe I don't know, but I'm from Spain originally, and they have a lot of. Or it's easier to find some of these things. Outside of the country, like some of the, like your Blantons straight from the barrel, your those kinds of things. And then I know one specifically, I have a couple of them there, but is the Austin Nichols, the Wild Turkey Austin Nichols, delicious stuff, and it's like from 90s or whatever, and it's like so good stuff, Yeah. But yeah, so tell everybody about you, man. What do you got going on? And yeah,
building websites. That's pretty much it. Well, building websites and a little bit about me. I started off doing marketing at a Fortune 300 company. That's kind of where I got my chops. Yep. Started that job with no experience. They were like, "Oh, you're young. You can figure it out, right? You do social media. You're young, right?"
Yeah.
Not really. But they paid for some training, and I got really lucky when I was there.
Nice.
Worked with some great people, but the corporate 9 to 5. Not for me, as is probably not for a lot of people watching this.
Yeah,
watching
absolutely.
This right here. And it's not that it was bad. It's just not what I wanted. It didn't give me the freedom I wanted. I had a company car, and I would have a company credit card. I could go do things, and I would travel, and all this other kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I had to report to somebody who didn't have my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And so, about a year and a half into that, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Sure.
Like, it's not that the job was hard either. It was easy, and that was the problem.
Okay.
It was too comfortable. Everything was just okay.
Okay.
There wasn't anything interesting. There wasn't anything going on. I could have moved up. I could have stayed there for 20 years.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Again, totally fine. Great benefits, and we need people to do that.
Yeah.
Just not for me.
Yeah.
So, like I said, about a year and a half into that, I decided enough is enough, and somebody that I met there, I'm gonna name drop him, Isaac, a good friend of mine. We started the business together. No plan, no marketing plan.
Starting a marketing business with no marketing plan.
Exactly. He's like, because I was so tired of just the corporate 9 to 5. And he's like, dude, I can tell this is eating away at you. He's like, because it was his idea originally. It was Isaac's idea. And he said, do you want to start a business? And I was like, sure. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And because I was never one of those people that were like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like, it was never this glorified thing in my head.
Sure.
I hardly even heard the word entrepreneur up until a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so Isaac brought the idea to me. I said, sure. 2 weeks later, we quit. He quit a little bit before me, and he was doing some other stuff. But then I quit. No, literally zero plan. I had 2 months of savings for rent, and a little bit extra. I had a couple, a little bit in stocks and stuff like that from the company. Not much, not as much as you might want to have when you quit without a plan.
Sure.
But man, it's been a struggle, and that was February of this year. February 3rd was my last day.
Wow.
But man, I wouldn't trade it. I have evolved 35,000 times since I've quit. Yeah. Like, it's actually, like, even if I had to go back, or even if everything failed, I'm a completely different person. My mindset is completely different.
Yep. No, I can see that, and obviously, like, we're not saying to anybody by any means, right? Mm-hmm. Like, go and quit your job. This is not what we're saying. But I will say, when you have something inside of you, right, like a fire that you are trying to figure out what that is, right? You said, I wanted to start a business. I don't know what that looks like, what it is. There's a certain level of uncertainty and excitement with all of that, but also, like, there's a certain level of planning also that goes into all of this, and for the people that are trying to figure that out, I don't think that there's ever for sure time that you're, I guess, secure or, like, ready.
Right. There is never the perfect moment, right?
Yeah. There's never the perfect moment to do something like that. But at the end of the day, like, I know there's people that have given up good to get great, right? And being able to make that transition. But I'm curious, because I've seen you, do a lot of great things for people, and, like, we were talking a little bit offline, but one of the things that you're an expert on is website building and clarifying the message for individuals, right? Like, your branding, what does that look like for you? If you have an ideal client, how can you help somebody out?
Exactly that. It's clarifying the message, because let's be honest, you can hire anybody to build you a website on Fiverr, right? Yeah. Or any sort of other technical marketing aspects, ads, whatever. You can find freelancers to do that stuff. Why go with a company when it's more expensive? Yeah. But the special thing about what it is that we do, and it's based off of the story brand framework, is clarifying your marketing message. Because even if you have the best designs, even if you have the coolest little animations and things flying in, we are this great company, we've been in business for 25 years. Yeah. If you don't tell people you fix cars, they don't know how they don't know that you solve their problem. Yep. Right? So you have to start by identifying the problem.
You can always have one of those, like, inflatable machines, though, that go like
that. No. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying if you only have an inflatable machine and there's no sign about what it is that you do.
It's kind of hard,
You're trying
to figure it out. Yeah, no, that's great. And honestly, like, especially on, like, I'm curious to, whenever you work with businesses, what's your bread and butter? Like, do you work with individuals, or do you work with like individual entrepreneurs, or more like business owners? What's that look like?
It's almost exclusively business owners, or for side projects, I will work with people trying to start a business. Essentially, I'm what I wish I had when I started out. It's kind of what it's turning into. I wish I had somebody to do my website and branding and help me actually clarify and simplify what value I'm bringing to the market. Because people, you might have a great idea, but an idea is only as good as well as you can communicate it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you can't communicate it well, nobody knows it's a good idea. And so that's what I help people do, is communication in their marketing.
I love that. I love that. And I heard this too. Like, we went to an event just recently together. One of the things that stood out from that was one of the things that they said is that you can be the best realtor, you can be the best financial, insurance, whatever. You fill in the blank. You can be the best doctor, but if nobody knows who you are, right? If nobody knows what you do, then you could be the world's best kept secret, right? Yeah. And so I feel like that's something that you fill in the gap with, right?
You're 100% right. Yeah, there's kind of 3 levels to it. There's exposure, so people, bringing awareness about yourself.
Yeah.
There's actually having the skill, websites, doctor, carpet cleaner, magician, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then there's that middle part of communicating your skill to the people that are aware of you properly. So that's what's missing. Everybody focuses on flashy design. Design is great. I love design.
Yeah.
But just as important as design is that clear message, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and whenever you work with somebody, like what is your process, when you work with somebody, and maybe if you're taking notes, this might be a good time to take notes, but what's the process that you go through with people? What are some of the questions that you would ask to individuals, and maybe people can spark some things on individuals on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So pretty much the framework that I use is the story brand framework. It's a 7-part framework, but essentially the main concept behind it is you or your business, you're the guide. Your customer is the hero. Too many businesses try to prop themselves up. We've been in business 25 years. We have all these awards. We've helped hundreds of thousands of people, whatever it is. But when somebody starts talking to you and they start boasting about all their accomplishments, you're like, well, you're not identifying how you can help me, so I'm going to go with this guy. Right? They kind of seem like this big wall of ego.
Right.
And so you have to pull your ego aside. Now, there is a time and a place for that, for establishing authority. I'm not saying that's wrong or bad.
Sure.
But you just have to know where to put it. And if you start with all these accomplishments you've done, you have to start with the problem. So that's the first thing we figure out. What is the problem you actually solve?
Okay.
Or, I mean, it can be, you might solve 10. But what's the most important one? What's the most... What's the one people are going to resonate with the most?
Yeah.
But then also, not just like, oh, we fix your car, but like what makes you different?
Right.
Too. So we kind of go through a myriad of questions. And just like in Star Wars, Luke is the hero. Yoda is the guide. The hero is weak in the beginning,
right,
but they're going to be strong in the end. The guide is the person who has been there, done that, the expert.
Right.
But the hero, again, is the hero of the story, but the guide has to help them. The hero needs a guide to help them through their story.
Yeah.
So you invite your customers into their story and you help them get to their goal.
Wow. I love that. I feel like it's so applicable too, like in any business too, and especially on the coaching space too, right? Mm-hmm. Like whenever you're looking at somebody to help you with your, if you're an athlete or you're trying to get into fitness, you need a coach to help you in some of that, right? Like in business, you need a coach. In marketing and branding, you need somebody to guide you, right? And I love what you said about the hero, because it's so key. Like in any business, right? You're putting the forefront. The customer should be the forefront.
The customer's the hero.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, you're solving their problem.
Yeah.
Without their problem, you wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So they take the utmost. They take the forefront.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's a lot of people you can find any websites out there that are just janky, like
right. It's like about us.
Yeah, this
our
is
mission.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about your mission.
Nobody.
If you haven't given them a reason to care.
Yeah.
If they don't know, like, and trust you, they don't care about if your mission is to build 3,000 wells in Africa. I mean, that's a great mission.
It's a great mission, but
right, yeah. That's kind of a bad example, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we don't care about the Africa wells.
Yeah. But yeah.
No, it's true. Like people, I mean, honestly, like it's what's in it for me, right? Like you go in there and when you buy anything, like any product or service, you're always looking like, what's in it for me, right? And what's the customer going to gain from this? And having that perspective, like that can help tremendously. And even if for people that have been in business for a long time, for people that have been just recently getting into entrepreneurship, right? Like before figuring out what the product, or even when you know the product or service too, like figuring out the messaging, figuring out what's in it for them, right? What's in it for your customer. And I'm curious, when you build a website, it's like, what's the right way to do things? What will you think?
So there's kind of three key points to a good website. Now there's a lot more, but these are kind of the three that I start with.
Sure.
So like I've said before, I'm going to repeat it. Start with the problem. Your header should say what problem you solve.
Okay.
You should do three things. What problem do you solve? Who do you serve? and who are you? Not who are you, like here's my story, but who are your business name?
Okay.
The next thing is, so once they know what problem you solve, because the reason you start with the problem is because that is the hook. That draws people in. And that's how you also sort and filter through good and bad qualified customers.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't necessarily solve their problem, but they still get in your leads, it's not a good call.
Yeah.
Right? So not only does communicating clearer help conversions, but it gets more qualified customers in your pipeline. Yeah. Because you are communicating clearly, this is the problem we solve. So that's kind of the boilerplate version of it.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, so start with the problem. The second thing is listing the stakes.
Okay.
And so the stakes are the negative consequences that the customer will experience if they don't do business with you. Not in a fear-mongering tactic. If you don't buy a car from us, your car's going to blow up in your house. Right. Crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of built off of the problem. I would almost even say it's labeling the problem, but it's listing the symptoms of the problem. So I kind of relate it to a doctor.
Okay.
You go to a doctor because you have a rash. The rash is a side effect. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. You're allergic to strawberries.
Okay.
That's the actual problem, but you go to get treatment for the rash.
Right.
But you have to, in order to be fixed, you have to diagnose the problem.
Right.
So you start with the problem, then you list the symptoms because the symptoms are what you feel.
Right.
And people make decisions based off what they feel. Obviously, there's logic in there, but most of the time people buy or sell because of feeling.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because we're emotional creatures.
Absolutely.
And the third thing is positioning yourself as a guide, and so not like, about me, I was raised in North Carolina, but like that's great. There is a time and place for that.
Yeah.
But just empathize with them. I know exactly where you've been. You know, my car blew up 2 years ago, and I wish I had a trusted dealer. That's why I started this dealership. I'm like, oh, okay, they get it.
Yeah.
Right? And then positioning your product as a solution. So those are kind of in the same thing. So identify that problem, list the symptoms, the feeling of that problem, the rash, the whatever.
Yeah.
And then position yourself. This will not only take away these symptoms that you feel, but it will solve this main problem.
Wow. Holy cow. We got some gold nuggets over here. You got to clip that. My goodness. Yeah. This is gold for anybody that's trying to figure out their messaging on their website and everything. And I feel like, honestly, the times are changing in a different direction now with social media, too. I know it kind of intermingles with that to where, like, sometimes I guess your website, your social media presence is your business card, right? Like, that's your presence, your first interaction with the world. Like, if you're going to do business with somebody, whatever the industry, and then you look them up and they don't have any social media presence.
Or it's just really janky.
Yeah. It doesn't really give you any confidence on doing business with that person. But what's interesting is that whenever because there's websites are for different purposes, right? Like, I'm sure you probably have people that build websites just for an e-commerce, right? Or
I mean, there's like, if you're doing a store, if you do, essentially not. So we're not talking about e-commerce here because that's a little bit of a different thing. The messaging is still the same. You want to identify all that stuff, but a typical business and a HVAC company business. Or a service-based business, their website, it's not a digital billboard being like, hey, we exist. It is a marketing hub. So all digital roads lead back to your website.
Got it. So like the social media goes to
exactly. And so that's why all your messaging has to be clear on your website, because even in this goes over for a landing page too, because a landing page is just a small website. That's all it is. For a very specific product or specific whatever service you're doing.
Sure.
Because if you have an ad running, and then it's like, hey, blah, 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 and it leads you to the website, but your website's super confusing. You're like, what the heck is this? And they skip out.
They dip out,
You might have traffic, but are they converting?
Right.
And usually, there's two reasons for conversions. One is mobile optimization, because more than 50% of people access websites from their phone.
Yeah.
And the second is, again, clear communication.
Absolutely. I feel like, I mean, you see it every day too. Like, people are bombarded with ads and with in social media, and like it's all about a figure, like you have this pool of individuals that you're trying to do business with, right? And that's your target audience, and then you're trying to figure out different ways to sort of narrow down the pool of individuals into a funnel that then you're starting to get actual opportunities, and then those opportunities lead to actual customers, and leading them in the right direction. And one of the things I always tell people is that stories sell, facts tell, stories sell, right? I
love that.
And so guiding people through that messaging and the story of what your business is, I feel like that's the bread and butter, right?
Absolutely. No, that's and here's another little tidbit to add on to that. I love that. I'm gonna have to start stealing that. But you should trademark that before somebody else does. The story is a universal language. So story is translatable through every single language, but it's still taken the same way because it's based on feeling. And again, since we're emotional creatures, we understand that feeling. So everybody in every single language, no matter how it's translated, they understand a love story. They understand a sad story. They understand a success story. That is the universal language. Yeah,
the hero story.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And if you had to give like the few, I guess, secrets of branding and things like that, right? Like, what are some of the things that somebody would first have to look at when it comes to like, hey, I'm at stage 0, right? Like, where do we go from there?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's not logo, it's not colors, it's not. It really starts with you and your personality, and even before that, it starts with your standards.
Okay.
Your brand, I believe your brand is your standards. So whatever standards you set for yourself and for your business, that is what your brand will become. If you have low standards, you will have not a very popular, not a big brand, or not a brand people want to get behind, because it doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah.
So if you have higher standards, or you're very polarizing, that's another kind of way to do it too.
Sure.
People have a team, they have a side to get on, and people love that. And so that's kind of one way to fast track it, is to either be polarizing or have a high set of standards, because high set standard people want to be with high standard people.
Right. And
so that's a very easy way to attract people.
Yeah, and you don't want to be too broad either, right?
No. You want to be specific.
That you're having those specific, I guess, clientele and the specific people that you can do business with, and the people that you relate, or that you're trying to relate to the most, right, with your product and everything. But
no, absolutely, yeah. And I think one thing for newer entrepreneurs is everybody kept telling me to, you need to niche down.
Yeah.
But when you first start out, I understand that, and it's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But I think when you first start out in your very first business, or you're just trying it.
Yeah.
I think you just got to experiment.
Yeah.
I think you just have to work with Joe Schmo and dog cleaner and plumbing company, whatever. You just have to try it out and see who you work with, because it's not, you don't know who you like working with until you find somebody you don't like working with.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And that goes for everything, right?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah. But that's amazing. That's great advice. And I'm curious, this is kind of a funny thing, but like, if you had to build a website for any celebrity, or could be, it doesn't have to be a real person, who would you build it for?
Man,
could be Mickey Mouse,
You know who I'd like to build a website for? I'd like to build a website for Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Yeah, that would be sick. I was thinking Robert Downey Jr. because I'm a big Iron Man fan.
Sure.
I was thinking Robert Downey Jr., but I was like, well, if it doesn't have to be real.
Yeah.
I think Tony Stark would be sick. All the tech, all the stuff, you get the inside stuff on it, right? And dude, he's got one heck of a budget.
That is true.
You can build that one website. And that's it.
Get like a nice payday. Right? That'd be amazing. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else would be a funny one. Any superheroes, that'd be a fun, just Iron Man, and on the main.
Yeah, flying around or something. Yeah.
What would he sell though?
I mean, I think so. Like in the comic books and stuff, or at least in the movies. I didn't really read the comic books. He
protection
sold,
service.
Yeah. So So it depends. If it's for Iron Man, then it'd be like cool techie stuff, right? I think he would just use it to flex, honestly.
Yeah,
if it was just an Iron Man site, he'd be like, "Look at this cool new suit that I built."
Yeah,
like an Instagram post.
Right.
But if it's for like Stark Industries, like all the weapons and selling it to governments and stuff like that, that'd be sick.
That'd be so.
Or like a Batman site, it just says it's just a black page. I'm Batman, and then it's like 1-800 I'm Batman, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Dude, do a Chuck Norris page. Website, and it just says turn around.
It's right there.
That's funny, man. Well, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much value on figuring out what your messaging is, for your business and really for just figuring out your path too, in a way. Like I know there's a lot of people that might be watching this and they're trying to figure out not only the messaging as a whole, but like where do you go if you want to become an entrepreneur, right? Like what's the fire that prompt you to want to get into this? Like, what are some of the bigger picture goals that you have? What does Tyler Enterprises look like, in the future? What does that look like for you?
Man. So that's a really fun game too, is just kind of imagining what it could be, because I mean, you imagine it, then you build it, right?
That's right.
You cast the vision, and then you figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
I would like a bunch of cool cars. I would like a bunch of stuff. But really, it comes down to being able to choose what I want to do with
my time. Right now, I'm in that grind phase. Just nonstop late nights. Because everybody needs to go through that to understand.
Yeah.
But also to get ahead. But yeah, man. Honestly, I just want to have a good family.
Yeah.
I just want to have a wife. A couple children. And just a nice house. I want to have a couple houses.
Nice.
Couple nice fast cars. Cadillac, Camaro, Corvette, some Lambo. Just the
what everybody wants. Yeah, right? Have you seen the speaking of that, the Cybertruck thing that just came out?
I just saw that. They were shooting it with a Tommy gun and all this other kind of stuff.
So crazy. They had a speed test. We can put it over here. They did a speed test. Yeah. The Cybertruck was faster carrying a 911 Porsche than the actual 911 Porsche.
Yeah, that was incredible. But they didn't let you see that.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
It's great marketing. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Great marketing. You're like, oh, the Cybertruck. Okay, it beat it. That's great. It's an electric car. Of course it beat it.
Yeah,
and then it pans and it shows you it's towing.
Oh my gosh! Like, have you ever been? Oh, there's another one of my buddies has a Lucid. Have you ever been in a Lucid?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, these cars are absolutely bananas. Like, I remember going in there, and he's like, "All right, are you ready?" It's like, "I don't know, as ready as I'll ever be," and it's like. It's like it feels like a freaking jet that's like but it's crazy. Like, how do they make cars that fast? It's bananas. Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, I think I saw a video where the Lucid was drag strip racing a Bugatti Chiron.
That's Sport, right. Yeah,
and it smoked
it. That's crazy.
Which is insane.
Yeah, and then I mean all that too. You can look at the marketing for that too, like the Cybertruck thing. I remember, I think it might have been a couple years ago when they first came out, and then they were throwing stuff at it, and the glass was breaking.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's bulletproof.
Yeah, it's bulletproof, and like throw a rock into it and like breaks. And now, I mean, they were doing the same stuff, and like you can see like a lot of people are like interested on it, and like I mean, the looks of it, it's not my style, it's not my favorite, but it's a dope truck, and
it's polarizing, right?
Yeah, exactly. They are winning at the marketing aspect of it, and I feel like a lot of the people that are winning in some of those areas are definitely people that are being controversial. And this is something that like I'm curious your thoughts on this, because I was talking to somebody about and this is on the social media side, but I'm assuming for websites can be applied as well, but being wrong on purpose, and this sounds weird, but I've talked to multiple individuals that have told me that they've purposely put wrong things
Mm-hmm.
on their videos to make it go viral or to make it so that people are more engaging. I mean, is there strategies like that people implement in websites too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about who you want to bring in, right? Because you can there's tons of ways to draw attention, but it's who are you looking for,
right?
And so, for example, with the Cybertruck, right? Even if it wasn't their idea for the glass to break, it was still an accidental genius move because they're like, oh, it's bulletproof, and then they throw the steel ball and it breaks it. And they're like, well, we're working, and everybody's going crazy about it.
Yeah.
They're sharing that it's this and that.
Of course.
But really, what they're doing is the haters are bringing awareness to the product,
the whole thing, yeah.
Right? And then people who actually are like, oh, that's actually kind of cool looking. I like, I want that's fun, that's different. I'm a different kind of guy. I'm unique. I want one of those, right?
Right.
And then obviously they fix the issues, and then it's
right. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a level of like, it's a fine line of how much do you mess things up to like bring awareness or attention, or I heard a quote the other day from somebody that was like, it was something, and don't quote me on the whole thing, but it was if you're having a circus come into town. Have you heard this thing about the circus? Like if you post circus come into town this Saturday, that's advertising, and then if you have an elephant that escapes out of the circus and makes a mess, that's like publicity, and then the whole thing like is marketing, right? Like is this whole thing. I'll probably put the link in there, but it's an interesting thing. Like there's a lot of nuances that go into that. Do you help people with like the advertising and things like that as well, or?
No, I mean,
or
eventually, yeah. So the great thing is once you clarify your message. So really, the structure of how we do it is right now I'm working on specializing in the technical aspect of the websites, getting that 100% solid, because I believe, again, your website's your marketing hub. Right. That's where everything feeds back into, and everything goes out from your website. Right. All the information. So you have to get that right. Yep. So we don't do any like ads or anything like that. But the great thing is the messaging is once you have it completed. So we do a brand deep dive based on the StoryBrand framework. Sure. And before we do any technical website stuff, like I have to figure out, and you have to figure out what value you're bringing, all this other kind of stuff to get it clear. Yep. But the great thing is you can use that in ads. You can use these little one-liners in an Instagram story. You can use it out in public. Some people are like, what do you do? So I have a perfect formula for a one-liner. So when people ask what you do, right? Nice. So that's the great thing is the messaging is universal, and it makes everything cohesive. All your marketing cohesive. So you're not saying one thing here and another thing here and another thing here. It's all the same message, and the people are like, "Oh, I've heard that before. What was that again?" Yeah. Because it takes something crazy like 8 to 13 times or something like that for people to remember stuff. Like when they see it, when they kind of glance across it. Yeah. So it might seem repetitive, but you have to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Think about the big brands. They repeat the same thing. Geico, save you 15% or more. Right. It's the same thing. Everybody knows that, right? Yeah. Yep. Everyone knows it, but they say it in every single commercial. Yep. I think it gets old. I mean, for some people, I'm sure you hate the commercial, but but you remember it. Yeah, or the jingles too. Like people remember like the Nationwide and Nationwide all the stuff that people make. It makes it more memorable, right? Exactly. And there's an interesting thing with all this too. Like, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on AI, right? Because AI is taking over. Everybody is using ChatGPT. If you haven't used ChatGPT, you're living under a rock. How is that affecting? Because you mentioned Fiverr, right? Like a lot of people. I feel like website building is one of the traditional things that maybe people outsource or do things like that, right? Like, but where do you see the whole AI and everything transitioning from that, and the difference between that and the value that maybe you can, like an expert can bring to the table? Definitely. And, So I'm not an AI expert. I use it pretty much on the daily, but I'm not like a developer in the trenches. My opinion on AI is a lot of beginners, a lot of people starting out, they're going to hurt the most because AI is going to take that from them because AI can do the basics. Right. AI is not the expert yet. I don't know if it will be. Sure. Even if it does become the expert, you still need experts to identify that this is an expert result.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I would encourage everybody to find a field and become an expert at it. And then AI is a tool you use to get to your expertise faster. So like for me, for example, I use it for copywriting, not the end result, but for brainstorming ideas and the structure.
Right.
So like the structure of writing something out. And then I'm like, okay, this is great. It eliminates writer's block. So if anybody's dealing with writer's block, use AI. Just you can literally type in broken sentences. I misspell things, don't add a period. It's smart enough to figure it out.
Yep.
But I think if you are a beginner, you should try to become an expert. You should try to become intermediate and then an expert. Right.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that's a little scary, but also like
definitely.
It's really cool to see like how things are evolving so quickly. Because if you think about it, I mean the internet and everything else, it's only been around for like 23 years.
No, yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
It's crazy.
It's new.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, imagine what technology and AI and I mean all of this is going to look like 50 years from now.
Absolutely.
You know, like with how advanced things are today, it's like mind-boggling, like what things are going to happen. You know, it's crazy. But I feel like being able to, you know, one of the things with entrepreneurship too is like being able to spot opportunity, right? Spot opportunity and being able to write the right trains at the right time.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people that made a ton of money when the whole internet boom was happening. Like if you see back in the day, like pictures of Jeff Bezos on a small, tiny office with the logo that says Amazon. I probably put the picture here, but the logo that says Amazon on a piece of like paper or something, right, on the wall. And sleeping on a couch and all these things, right? Like all these people that took advantage of riding the right train at the right time. And the same happens with most of the businesses, right? Like right now with AI and some of these different things, and being able to leverage those tools to grow your business, right? And hopefully help other people too, like help grow their businesses, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it just makes things more efficient. And you can't rely on it always because it does lie sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. It even says down there, hey, fact check your information.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Any final words, anything else that you want people to know, like, you know, about what you're doing and about just any tidbits, any golden nuggets? I feel like you should have been taking notes. All this is great stuff. But yeah, any final words?
Yeah, I would say this is my personal opinion.
Okay.
But I feel like the reason most marketing agencies that people hire, the reason why most people have a bad experience with marketing, have this negative feeling, this negative connotation, is because they focus too much on the technical deliverables, so the actual ads. They focus on the design. They focus on the website. They focus on the coding. Oh, we're these great. We can advance, blah, blah. Nobody focuses on the messaging. The most important, you could have a blank ad on a Google Doc, and if it says the right words, the right people will get into there. I'm not saying design and stuff isn't important,
right?
But messaging is arguably more important.
Yeah.
So if your marketing isn't working, I would take a look before you talk about website and hire another company and this other stuff. Look at your messaging. Is it clear? Ask your mom. A mom is a great way because they're more than likely the average consumer. And so if you ask them to look at your stuff and she's like, well, I don't know what this means, there's your problem.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I'm curious for anybody watching this, put it in the comments, you know, like what are some other ways that you can grow and better your messaging? Any questions for Tyler? We're happy to answer those. But I'm curious, anybody that has any experiences or questions around that, messaging and branding and things like that. Is a whole world out there, man. But I appreciate you hanging out here for a little bit. I mean, we got some
great
finishing out this bourbon.
Yeah.
113
proof. I like it. I like that bite. I like that.
It's pretty decent. These are some of those like bottle kills, you know. It's been hanging in my in my thing for a bit. But yeah, good stuff, man. I appreciate you. We'll put his info in the comments too if you want to reach out to him. Anybody that's local, anybody outside, and everything else. But yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next episode.